Every single time Diddy tries to make a request in court, Judge Aaron hits him back with a big solid no. So let's unpack exactly what went down during Sean P. Diddy Combs' federal sentencing, his 50-month prison term, what he asked for, and why the judge shut it down completely. So here's the deal. Judge Supermanian from the Southern District of New York has now officially sentenced Diddy to 50 months in federal prison. That's 4 years and 2 months behind bars. This isn't speculation or rumor. It's been officially filed. Diddy is now in federal custody, meaning no waiting at home, no bail extensions, and definitely no halfway house deals. He's officially in. You could say it's can't stop, won't stop. But this time, it's for real. Now here's where things get interesting. During sentencing, Diddy made a special request. He asked the court to let him serve his sentence at Fort Dix Federal Correctional Institution in New Jersey, spelled D-I-X. If you don't know, Fort Dix is known as one of the better low-security prisons in the federal system. It's relatively cleaner, has more open grounds, and even offers more educational and recreational programs. In short, it's one of the few places where doing time feels a little more tolerable. But guess what? The judge wasn't having any of it. Judge Supermanian said, "Absolutely not. Why?" Because Fort Dix is already overcrowded, and more importantly, she didn't want to show any hint of favoritism or give Diddy a setup that might make his time easier than others. She emphasized that Diddy won't get to choose where he serves his sentence. His placement will depend purely on security level and availability. Translation? Diddy doesn't get to pick his own prison. The Bureau of Prisons makes that decision. So while it might be somewhere near New York, it won't necessarily be Fort Dix. So no, it's not time for Diddy to sit there pouting, sulking, or letting that bottom lip droop just yet. Even though the judge straight up denied his request for Fort Dix, there's still a tiny silver lining here. Judge Supermanian did recommend that Diddy be placed as close to New York as possible, and also that he be considered for the Residential Drug Abuse Program, better known as RDAP. Now, that's actually a big deal. See, RDAP is one of the very few programs in the federal prison system that can actually shorten your sentence. If Diddy qualifies and completes it successfully, he could shave off up to a full year from his time. But here's the catch. To even be eligible, an inmate needs a documented history of substance abuse. Diddy checks that box, but the decision doesn't come from the judge. It's completely up to the Bureau of Prisons. Now let's talk real numbers. How much time will he actually serve? So, Diddy was sentenced to 50 months, but remember, he's already spent roughly a year behind bars waiting for this sentencing. Under federal law, that year counts toward his total time. That means 50 months minus 12 equals 38 months remaining. But there's more. In federal prison, inmates can earn good behavior credits that could knock off another 7 to 8 months. And if he's accepted into RDAP and completes it fully, that's another potential 12 months gone. Put all that together, and Diddy could realistically be out in about 18 to 20 months, roughly a year and a half from now. So if everything goes in his favor, we're talking about a possible release sometime around mid to late 2027. Now let's shift gears, because this next part is where things get serious. The court also hit Diddy where it hurts most, the wallet. The judge ordered him to forfeit all property and assets connected to Count 3 and Count 5 of his indictment. In plain English, that means anything that was used, intended to be used, or tied in any way to the criminal acts. We're talking bank accounts, luxury properties, cars, electronics, business interests, everything. Anything that could have played even a small role in his crimes? Gone. Everything tied to those charges? Gone, completely wiped out. The October 3rd forfeiture order made it official. The government now has the green light to seize or sell any of those assets under federal law. But here's the thing. When Diddy walks out of prison, his punishment doesn't just stop there. It keeps going. Because once he's out, he'll be placed under strict supervised release. And trust me, the conditions are no joke. First off, he can't commit any new crimes, not federal, not state, not even local. He's also forbidden from possessing or using any illegal substances, and he has to submit to drug testing within 15 days of his release. After that, he'll be tested periodically whenever the court decides. On top of that, he's required to cooperate with DNA collection, exactly as directed by his probation officer. And here's the kicker. His probation period lasts 5 years. 5 years of walking a straight line? During that time, he can't even afford to sneeze the wrong way. Any slip-up could land him right back behind bars. Once he's released, Diddy has to report to the probation office in the district where he's allowed to live, and he must do it within 72 hours of walking free. unless his officer gives him different instructions. After that first meeting, the court or probation officer will lay out exactly how often and when he needs to check in. And here's the part that's really going to test him. He can't leave his assigned district without permission from the court or his probation officer. Now, knowing Diddy's lifestyle, hopping on jets, flying out whenever he feels like it, that's going to be a serious adjustment. And every time his probation officer asks him something, Diddy has to answer honestly and directly. No games, no dodging, no attitude, just straight truth. Diddy's freedom once he's out is going to come with a long list of rules. He has to live only in a place approved by his probation officer. If he wants to move, switch apartments, or even change who's living with him, he's got to tell his probation officer at least 10 days in advance. Now, if something unexpected happens and he can't give that 10-day notice, he has a small window, 72 hours, to let the officer know once he becomes aware of the change. And here's where it gets even more serious. The probation officer has the right to visit him anytime, whether it's at home, at work, or anywhere else. And if the officer spots anything that breaks the terms of his supervision, they can take it right then and there. Next up, work. Diddy must hold down a full-time legal job, at least 30 hours per week, unless his probation officer gives him an exception. If he doesn't already have a job, he's required to actively look for one. And again, if he plans to change jobs, switch roles, or alter anything about his employment, he's got to give his probation officer 10 days' notice. If it's a sudden change and advance notice isn't possible, that same 72-hour rule kicks in. He has to report it immediately after. But the restrictions don't stop there. He's forbidden from communicating with anyone involved in criminal activity. If he even knows that someone has a felony conviction, he's not allowed to talk or meet with them unless his probation officer gives permission first. And one more thing. If Diddy ever gets arrested or even questioned by the police for any reason, he has to report it to his probation officer within 72 hours. So yeah, even though he'll technically be out, every move, every call, every connection, it'll all be watched closely. Freedom, but with walls you can't see. There's another major rule, and this one's about weapons. Diddy is strictly forbidden from owning, carrying, or even having access to any kind of firearm, ammunition, or dangerous weapon. That includes not just guns, but anything designed to injure or kill, even things like nunchucks or laser devices. And it doesn't stop there. He's also not allowed to work with law enforcement as an informant or confidential source, unless the court itself gives official permission. He must follow every single instruction given by his probation officer, no matter how small or detailed it may be. And here's a big one. He has to submit to searches of anything he owns or uses. His home, his car, his office, his phone, computers, even his cloud storage or other electronic devices. Now, these searches aren't random. They only happen if the probation officer has reasonable suspicion that Diddy broke a rule or committed a new crime, and that evidence of it might be found in those places. The searches must be done by U.S. probation officers, though they can have local law enforcement help out if needed. And they have to happen at reasonable times and in a reasonable manner, but here's the catch. Refusing a search is enough reason for his release to be revoked. In other words, one no to a search could land him right back in custody. He also has to warn anyone living with him that his home or property could be searched at any time because of these conditions. And finally, this part is non-negotiable. Diddy cannot have any contact whatsoever with the victims in this case. No physical contact, no phone calls, no texts, no letters, not even indirect communication through someone else. He also can't ask or influence anyone else to reach out to them on his behalf. For the next several years, every step he takes will be watched, monitored, and recorded. It's not just about serving time anymore. It's about earning trust back under constant supervision. Even outside of the prison walls, Diddy's life will be under a microscope. He's required to give his probation officer full access to any financial information they request. No secrets. No hidden accounts. And when it comes to money, he's not allowed to open new credit lines or rack up fresh credit card debt without approval. The only exception? If he's following the official payment plan set by the court. On top of that, Diddy must enroll in an outpatient drug treatment program approved by the U.S. Probation Office. That includes regular testing to make sure he hasn't slipped back into using drugs or alcohol. He'll also have to help pay for the program, depending on what he can afford and whether outside funding is available. The court has even authorized the release of his drug treatment evaluations and pre-sentence reports to his treatment providers, and meaning his full history is fair game for his recovery team. But that's not all. Diddy must also take part in an outpatient mental health treatment program, again approved by the probation office. He has to keep taking any prescribed medication unless his doctor says otherwise. Just like with the drug program, he'll contribute to the cost based on his financial ability. The court has also authorized the release of his psychological and psychiatric evaluations to his healthcare providers, ensuring they have the full picture of what they're working with. And finally, there's one more mandatory program: domestic violence treatment. It's been recommended that his supervision continues under the district of residence, meaning wherever he ends up living, that local district will keep a close eye on him. So even after the bars open and the cameras fade, Diddy's life will be anything but free. Every step, every dollar, every decision, all under federal watch. On top of everything else, Diddy's also facing some heavy financial penalties. He's been hit with an assessment fee of $200 and a fine of $500,000, both of which he's required to pay within the next 60 days. And now, let's circle back to one of the most serious parts: the forfeiture. In Diddy's federal case, Count 3 and Count 5 are the big ones: sex trafficking and money laundering. These are the most severe charges in his entire indictment. Count 3 accuses him of coercing and transporting victims across state lines for illegal sexual activity, while Count 5 focuses on moving and concealing money connected to those crimes, funneling funds through his businesses and accounts. Because these offenses involved using money, property, and business resources to carry out or hide criminal activity, the court ordered a forfeiture. That means the government can legally seize anything that was used or gained from these crimes. We're talking homes or studios where illegal acts allegedly took place, vehicles or private jets that were used to transport victims, bank accounts that moved dirty money, phones, hard drives, and business assets that helped cover up or facilitate the offenses. Now, as Diddy begins his 5-year supervised probation, his life will be under constant monitoring. Even one wrong move, like failing a drug test, missing a probation meeting, or taking an unauthorized trip, could send him straight back to federal prison. So, yeah, it might sound like freedom on paper, but in reality, those 5 years will be a tightrope walk with no room for mistakes. Now I want to hear from you. What do you think about everything going on with Diddy, the sentencing, the probation, and what comes next? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because you already know how we do. We'll talk about it down there. Thanks for watching, and before you head out, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and hit that bell icon so you never miss a new episode. See you guys next time!